I was watching a Cheska Lee video, as you do, and I did it to myself. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I looked, especially not in her videos, I looked in the comments. I know, I shouldn't have done it, but I scrolled down, sort of like a naive newborn baby. I scrolled down and I looked at the comments, and the first comment I saw was from a person of color, and they were like, oh my god, this is really informative, but like I don't like that you're married to a white guy and that you sound white. And I was like, oh god, I only know the struggle of a light-skinned, able-bodied American, like lower middle class person, so that's the only experience I could speak to. So I'm not going to try to talk about anyone else's experience because that would be silly, because I don't know anyone else's experience. So let's just stick with the one that I know. Light-skinned, able-bodied, person of color, living in America. Okay. I don't think people understand that in order to be taken seriously or to even be treated like a person, black people have to speak or act a certain way. When black people act a certain way, either they're acting white, or they're acting like savages or thugs, or they're acting ratchet, which is code for ghetto, which is code for black. So there's no way to win, basically, as a black person in America. There's no way for you to act, to be treated like a person, like an individual, and not like you're somehow a monolith, which is how people think of races that are not white, which we've established, I think. I talked about it in another video, how like everybody who isn't white has to represent their entire race to white people. Oh my god. Cheska Lee, she said, Francesca, I want to just call her by her actual person name. Francesca said this really fantastic thing about how during the slave trade, when they were bringing all the black people, the Africans from Africa to America, and they were from all these different tribes and all these different countries and all these different nations and all these different families, and they didn't speak the same language. So they came to America, which they managed to create another language so they can communicate with each other, which is what we call, like now, African American vernacular, which is like a variation of English, which is it is super amazing, actually. I mean, if you think about it, even for a second, how they took all these people that didn't speak the same language as each other, let alone the language of the country they were being shoved into. But like, yeah, they were able to create another language so they could speak to each other, and that's kind of how we get African American vernacular now, which is the language that people, or the variation of a language white people expect black people to speak all the time. And if they don't speak that, then they're somehow better than the black people who do speak that. Assimilation, I say assimilation is like, have you ever seen one of those videos or like a story on like Huffington Post or whatever about how a white person has gotten really upset with a person of color for speaking their mother language in a public place? And they're like, oh, in America we speak English, and this sort of like racist rhetoric that they like to spout out at people of color in times of, I don't know, stress, minor stress, white people when they have to like wait in line or something. That sort of thing. Like when people of color have to conform to this European standard, that's part of the issue, is that they think that this is the way that you can be, this is the only way that you can be to be a civilized human being, and everyone else is not civilized, or everyone else is subpar, everyone else is subhuman. So that's a big part of it. They think that in order to be considered a person, or to be considered a proper person, you have to speak a certain way, or act a certain way, or carry yourself a certain way. And that's just not accurate at all. We've seen it so many times where if you act at all differently to how white people think that you should act, they get really upset, and sometimes they will literally kill you. That's another thing, that's another reason why assimilation is such an issue, because we literally feel like we have to do this, because if we don't, then we could literally, like, this isn't me being figurative, like this isn't hyperbole, white people literally murder people because they don't act a certain way. So, you know, assimilation is a thing. Some white people have this idea that the end all be all, like the goal for all people of color is to act white or to seem white, which is, nah buddy. My question is, like, if I'm not acting like a black person, then what do black people act like? And before you start like throwing these racist, like Aunt Jemima tropes at me, like, why do you think that's the way black people act? Have you seen like more than one black person? Have you interacted with a black person IRL? There's no one specific way for any group of people to act. So like if you're of a certain race, or a certain ethnicity, or a certain nationality, or a certain gender or sexual orientation, just because like they act that way doesn't mean that that's how everyone in that group is going to act. I shouldn't have to tell you this. This should be like fucking 101, but this is, people don't get it. Tell me what your favorite song from Hamilton is in the comments. If you are going to say something racist to me, say that instead. So instead of saying, hey, you're being racist, like, tell me what your favorite song from Hamilton is. That'd be better. Or if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It'll change your freaking life. It's amazing. Amazing. It's fire emojis. Fire emojis.